Welcome to Spoiled for Resident Evil 7. I'm here. I'm Kyle Hilliard. Andrew Reiner is here.
Hello.
He reviewed the game. Javy Gwaltney is here.
I am, in fact, here.
He's written a lot about the game. I've beaten the game. And we also have Tim Turi from Capcom, formerly Game Informer.
Hello.
He's going to talk to us about it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Hi,
for coming.
Nice to see you again.
It's good to see you guys.
Yeah. So Resident Evil 7, it was a mysterious game leading up to release. It continues to be a mysterious game in some ways, but it certainly is less mysterious. Now that we've actually played the whole thing, we understand how it connects to the wider Resident Evil universe, even though it's small little subtle things. But it also has sort of a nice contained story with some twists, I feel like.
Yeah, I think those twists we should dive into because they can be interpreted different ways maybe, right?
Yes.
Right.
So the core, I'm still sort of confused exactly about what, I guess, Umbrella. We don't even know if it's really Umbrella, I guess, was experimenting on this little girl. Do we know it's Umbrella? Do you guys remember if it was called out specifically?
Well, the helicopter that comes in at the end is very specifically Umbrella.
Yeah.
Umbrella, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, they were shut down in like 2000 something, right? Like so.
Yeah, you're right. So like the Umbrella really hasn't been on the scene in a really meaningful like as Umbrella for a long time. So it's like there was Neo Umbrella in Resident Evil 6, which was actually just sort of like a revival of it, but like, you know, just with connections to Umbrella, but not like the actual corporation. But yeah, this is like the first time we've seen them like in full force for a long time.
And we still don't know exactly what they are. Like that's sort of the big final reveal of the game is like, hey, Umbrella's here. Their logo is blue now instead of red. And Chris Redfield
and Chris is with them.
Yeah. But
Chris looks very different too.
Yeah. And Tim, I mean, you can kind of confirm that like we don't know what Umbrella is doing now. That's sort of like the mystery of 7 is like we're kind of left hanging a little bit like what's going on? Like what's changed here?
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely left. There's some open ends left there. Like we knew that Umbrella was involved to some degree since the demo first came out. Like right away, I remember it was interesting seeing this game throughout the entire campaign. People are like, how does it connect to the series? And then the very first demo, there's like a logo on a helicopter, and that ended up being what the game closes out with. But even though we know they're connected, like, yeah, there's still a ton of questions. Like the logo is blue now, and Chris is here, and what's going on here exactly?
And my initial theory was that when Chris comes out, he says like, "I'm Redfield," is exactly what he says. So my assumption was like, is this even Chris? Like,
yeah, that's what I thought too, because he has his hair color is more blonde.
He looks way different. He
frosted those tips.
Yeah.
He also
the game actually takes place in the 90s.
Code Veronica and got his tips frosted.
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, he also seemed younger. I was like, does the timeline work where he could even be like a son? Maybe.
Well,
but I mean, wiping all that clean in the credits, he's Chris Redfield.
He's credited as Chris Redfield.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be Chris Redfield. I have some hunches or hunks.
Hunches? I'll allow it.
Sorry.
Tim says it's okay.
There's a chance he could be a soldier creature created by Umbrella that is posing as Chris Redfield, which we've learned are called hunks, right? So that's something we just won't know. I mean, that's something people are speculating, like, why does he look so different? Why is, Umbrella's back, but they really shouldn't be. Is he kind of a remnant of this program?
And then the DLC with him in it is called Not a Hero.
Right.
Which is another thing of like, maybe he's not the Chris that we know and love or tolerate.
This stuff is all delicious. I think like this version of Chris, who we see at the end of RE7, he actually reminds me of, obviously he changed pretty dramatically in RE5, hit the gym and all that stuff.
Sure. Punched
some turned into Marcus Phoenix.
Steroids that Ethan ended up getting his hands on. I don't know. But this looks like this version. He reminds me of like if you took that original character model for Chris, like especially like the RE remake, like he does look like an older version of that to me initially. That was my first thought when seeing like the sort of design change.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see what comes from that. I mean, that is like a really nice little teaser for people going into whatever comes next, right? But I have some questions going back. Like we went right up to the credits, Kyle.
Yeah, that's how Spoiled seems to work. We talk about the very last thing, and then we kind of circle back a little bit and fill in the middle.
Well, I just want to ask one question. Lucas Baker, like you take him down, but it seems like he escaped escapes, and then you kind of learn maybe he was the one that contacted Redfield, right? He turned into like mist or something. Am I reading that right, or did I see that completely wrong?
I think the understanding there is that Lucas is involved with contacting some organization, right?
Okay.
But in one of the final rooms that you get to in RE7, when you're in the salt mines in the lab, there's like a lot of juicy stuff in there.
Redacted.
But a lot of it's redacted, yeah. And so there are some hints that he's been contacting an organization, but it is like it's really unclear.
It could
there has
be
been a lot
like-
of theories.
It could be like
it's
Comcast,
unclear.
right? You just redacted Comcast, like he was just trying to get his cable back up.
It was just built.
That Capcom just couldn't get the permission to use Comcast right at the last second. They're like, I'm sure we can get Comcast in there. There's also in Lucas's attic, I guess. This is something I missed that was called out to me later. There's like a receipt for the company that built the Shadow puzzles, and I think I guess it was the same company that designed the mansion from Resident Evil 1.
It's George Trevor. Is that the one you're
I
talking
think so.
about?
I don't know if that's something that you can, if you remember or can confirm, Tim, but it sounds like that there's a connection between like the people who made the original mansion and Lucas somehow.
Yeah, I mean George Trevor was the architect for the original Spencer estate that was killed by Spencer because he knew the secrets and all that.
Yeah.
I'd have to reread that receipt.
Yeah, I think it just has George's name on it, so it's really left open as like, ooh, he liked making shadow puzzles. Maybe it's the same guy.
I like how it's all connecting to one. This is super cool.
Yeah. I was initially annoyed with sort of let's find documents to try and understand, the bits of story, how this connects to Resident Evil, the rest of the series. But I really like it in terms of like, okay, as Ethan, we're sort of being drawn into this world that maybe the player understands pretty well if they've been following the series all along. But for me, it was really gratifying because I've played all the games, but I don't have I have a hazy recollection of all of them except 4. So I feel like it does a good job of tying into, here's this poor dude who's stuck in a house with a bunch of crazy people and monsters and whatnot. So it's interesting how they instilled that and made that work.
That lineage also, the sort of broader lineage of Resident Evil, kind of made whatever is infecting that the Baker family like that much more sort of intriguing and strange. Like on its own, it stands. If this was your first Resident Evil, it kind of stands as like, there's something crazy going on there. What a crazy, scary thing. But if you if you've played the other Resident Evils, you're like, well, what is this crazy, scary infection, and how does it connect to everything else?
Yeah, what's this strain do?
The E-series
Speaking
virus.
of that, like, what did you guys think about the whole Evelyn thread and how that kind of, based on what we saw initially, on the cover of the game is Evelyn, like, the little girl, which is more significant than, I think, than anyone would have realized. But what did you guys think about that thread and like the revelations with that?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Like when the game began, I was like, man, they are completely divorcing themselves from Res Evil. This is more supernatural, more spiritual kind of stuff going on, stuff moving on its own, hallucinations, people being taken over by weird poltergeist beings. But then it all ties in. Like as you keep going through the game, once you get to the boat sequence and all that, you start reading those documents and you see it is all science-based. It's really tied into research and all these kind of crazy experiments. This one was like the E-series experiment. Did that come up? I'll let you guys answer, but did that come up in a previous Res Evil game? Was that ever mentioned as a note? Do you know, Tim?
The
E-series.
E-series, to my knowledge, like I know that the series does an amazing job of like planting the seeds of future. Like I've replayed Lost in Nightmares, and like basically the entire plot for Revelations 2 is like tucked away in there. And the hints of Alex Wesker and stuff. But to my knowledge, I was not familiar with E-series or any previous groundwork laid for it. But that's the thing is like sometimes you'll go into a forum and someone will be like, aha, and they'll find it. But this was news to me.
Yeah, because it seems like there's a lot of time passage there. When you see the boat, you learn like this has been going on for a while. So I didn't know if they connected it. I know the boat has some kind of meaning, but I'll let you guys. Sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, you're good. At first, I was annoyed with the whole Evelyn thing. I think it's something that you have to see all the way to the end to get its payoff, because it struck me at first. It's like, okay, here's this creepy little scary girl who's manipulating everyone, and you can tie that back into like Fear with Alma. You can tie that back into The Ring, and probably before that. But I think the way they pulled it off, because in Fear, Alma just walks around. If you haven't played Fear, it's a little girl with supernatural, scary powers who turns everyone into just puddles of blood. And Evelyn is sort of in that vein, but she also manipulates everyone around her and makes them, go against their will, which is why the Bakers to me are super fascinating, because there's a sequence later on near the end of the game where you talk with the patriarch of the Baker family, and he feels like garbage and is apologizing to Ethan and this and that. And I just love that that Resident Evil 7 takes these terrifying hillbilly stereotypes and makes them sympathetic.
Right.
I loved that scene, actually. Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes in the game.
Well, I have a question about that scene, actually. Where does that scene take place? Because, like, Jack is, like, the boss that you fight in the dock area, right? Who's, like, going up and down.
Yeah, the Legend of Zelda boss.
Yeah. Because and maybe this is just me not paying enough attention, but I was like, am I fighting Lucas or Jack? And then, Ethan goes away for a while, and he has, like, it almost feels like a dream sequence where he's talking to Jack. Do you guys know where that takes place?
I just assumed it was like a mental space that was connected.
That's
kind
of what I thought, too. I mean, Tim, you don't have any insight into that, right? Like, do you know if that's, like, supposed to be, like, did I miss something, or am I supposed to kind of be unsure about where that conversation is taking place?
If you do read, a lot of the files, you find that, Evelyn is basically... she's taken over these people, and they kind of have this shared consciousness, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
So it could be sort of like a yep. Yeah. All right. And I guess, and it seems like Evelyn, like, there's that 3-year gap between Mia disappearing, so she, like, aged super fast. Like, I found a document about that where she had aged super fast, like Akira style. I guess that just happens when you give children telekinetic powers.
Yeah, she has
they get
old.
Rapid cell growth was like a side effect of this experiment, right?
Yeah, it was nice. I just appreciate, like I said, as a sort of, even divorced from the rest of Resident Evil, just that sort of storyline I really appreciated, and I liked seeing her throughout the game and quickly learning, like, being trained, like, she's not a threat. You don't have to worry about her. She's just there to be creepy, and then understanding that, like, oh, she is very much a threat and has been a threat the whole time.
When did you guys first think the old lady might be the key piece in this whole thing?
Oh, as soon as, like, she started cropping up all over the place randomly, like in corners or whatnot, and the game wouldn't let me shoot her or anything.
Yeah, that was the big clue.
I didn't even try that.
Her.
I mean, I assumed that
you're a menace.
No, I'm not, because I just assumed it was a Metal Gear Solid 3 sort of thing. Like, maybe if I cap her in the face now, I don't have to fight her later.
Ben Hansen was also just infinitely just intrigued by her. I remember when he got his hands on it first, it spent probably a good 10-15 minutes just I don't know, just trying to interact with her in any way possible.
that sounds like something to do.
A borderline obsession, I feel like. So I think he knew something was up from the very beginning.
Please go ahead.
The other thing that I really liked about her is you had all those monsters and different threats in the house, but they're all spawned from her. And you learn later in the game that she is basically barfing up offspring, right? Like vomiting up these creatures. That is so awesome. That it's not just like a mass experiment. It's like one experiment that went horribly, horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah, the combination of these people they've been abducting, right? Plus whatever Evelyn produces, what they call mold or just vomit. Like that combination is just like maybe it makes them molded, maybe it doesn't. It seems like it doesn't react to everyone, which is a very classic RE thing. It's like Nemesis program and stuff. But when it does make molded, I'd like to. It's that basement, man. Like she really went hog wild down there. Like, it was a hard night of drinking. I don't know.
That might be my favorite like enemy name type in a long time. It's just the molded. It's just great.
You definitely don't want to touch that thing. Yeah, like for sure.
Speaking of molding, what do you guys think? There's a binary choice that happens like in the last quarter of the game where you have to choose between Mia, your wife, who's been missing for like 3 years, and you've come to track her down.
Oh, wait, real quick.
Zoe.
We're sure that she's his wife?
Yes.
That's true?
Yeah, okay. I mean, unless...
Her name's Mia Winters.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, and then Ethan Winters. Okay, I was just like, JV, you mentioned on the live stream, I was like, oh, they're married? And then as I was like kind of going back and playing, I kept looking for rings on fingers and stuff. And I guess they took off their rings.
Well, like if your wife disappears for 3 years, you got to move on at some point.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That's going to be paid DLC, right, Tim? The ring for Kyle?
That's important to me.
Yeah.
Hunt the ring.
Sorry to sidetrack
you're
for
good.
that very important aspect of the
it's
story.
And then the other, you have to choose between who to give a cure to for, the
Zoe.
E strain. Zoe, who's like part of the Baker family and has been helping you out and is sort of like fulfilling this handler thing. I actually thought when I heard her voice first, it's like, oh, it's just Ada putting on a voice and we're going to run into her later. But nope.
I saw some of that speculation out there too. It wasn't just you. I saw a few theories floating around with that.
I mean, because that's what Ada does. Like, she just shows up on the outskirts and then, nope, I'm here.
Just dressed
Well,
just impossibly wrong for the environment usually.
Also, Mia does remind me of Ada in that way, where Ada was not who she said she was initially. You know what I mean? In RE2, we found out that she was a spy. So
Yeah. But anyway, you have to choose between them, and then the choice you make affects how the game ends. It totally
Kind of.
changes the ending. Well, yeah, it changes the ending, and it also changes, sort of a boss encounter later on.
Can you describe? Because I picked Mia. I went and read the alternate, which sounded like she dies on the way to the
Immediately.
ship, right?
No, you kill her.
You kill her.
You kill her in a boss fight later.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's basically the same fight from earlier, except from when you first enter the house. But instead of an axe, you have a crowbar, and you just jam it in her chest, and she dies.
Okay, and then Mia is not on the helicopter at the end of the game if you go that route.
Yeah, what happens is Ethan, the video that plays at the very beginning of the game, Ethan watches it on his phone and has this moment where he's like, time to move on. And he throws it out of the helicopter.
Wait, he throws the phone?
He wastes the phone.
There's a delete function on there, man.
He's moving on completely.
All
Right,
right.
gotta get rid of that thing.
Just starts
over.
taking off all his clothes and like shaves his head in the
But
helicopter.
like that's pretty much what happens. He looks at it, says some words, tosses it out of the helicopter into Louisiana.
Hey, Tim, do you guys have metrics on who's the percentages of who's chosen in that? It seems like I would say 95% of the people pick Mia just because that's kind of the whole point from the beginning of the game is to save her. It's your wife, love of your life. Do you have any kind of understanding of how players have chosen?
I'd have to check again, but like we do have some awesome metrics that I can share with you guys. It's like RE.net, basically anyone that's like signed up for that. There's like some ridiculous statistics. Like they track a lot of stuff. Like, but I don't know if something so spoilery is in that one. I'd have to double check, but. There are a ton of stats. I'll have to dig that up here.
What about just as, with your position of kind of watching feedback for the game?
In that sense, then I think that most people, most human beings that aren't complete monsters choose Mia. From what I've gathered, like the common thing is like, I hear is like, I chose Mia to save Mia the first time. And then I went through in my second playthrough, whether it was Madhouse or like a trophy run, and then chose Zoe.
Okay, to be fair, I chose Zoe because Reiner told me that he chose Mia. So I just wanted it was a work decision.
He did this after he made the choice.
No, I didn't. You liar.
I trust Reiner in this
You are
situation.
a monster.
I do like Zoe's reaction though, where she seems pretty confused that you chose her. Like, she seems about as confused as anyone would be. Where it's just like, oh, okay, well, I'm not complaining, but
Does she throw her phone into the swamp at that moment?
No, she dies.
Oh, she just dies
Straight up dies
of a broken heart and also
of being turned molded. Yeah.
But the big question, I guess, coming out of this is like that the end of Ethan's story, was that kind of a baton toss over to Umbrella and Res Evil or Chris Redfield and the earlier conventions of Res Evil, or are we going to see more of them? I'm excited. I'm really excited to see where
I
this goes.
hope as like sort of a jokey thing, we don't ever play Ethan again, but like, and he doesn't even play like a huge role, but we just see him walking down like an Umbrella hallway one time. Like in a
becomes
future
an
game, just
accountant.
waving at someone.
With his other hand missing, just
with his face obscured by a notebook or something like that. That's interesting that you never see Ethan's face, really.
I feel like you were talking about that earlier. I think there is one bit where you
Did I
see
just
him.
miss it? Okay.
But
When
it's
he's in
just
the
like the
mold.
most like nondescript white blonde dude.
Okay. Well, because even in the Ethan Must Die mode now, the art for it like has his face blacked out. So I don't know. I thought
that was more just like a grindhouse.
This like the best view I think that you get of like Ethan's face in the game is in the end when you're going through the guest house and having those hallucinations and flashbacks of fighting Mia, and she pushes him through the wall. You get a glimpse of him there. For sure.
You also see him on
one part.
a photograph, right? At the very beginning.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when he's trapped in the mold, I think you see.
Yeah.
Well, when he's
kind
trapped
of
in the
see
mold,
him there,
yeah.
right?
Also, I want to, just because it's not quite as spoilery as the stuff we've been talking about, but I kind of want to quickly touch on Lucas's puzzle room.
It's so cool.
I really like that part of the game, and I really like how it's set up where if you do I guess you can skip it if you want, but you can do the puzzle first to basically see how to do it half right, half wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I also, man, it was one of those perfect puzzle moments that I really love of figuring out how to wash the eyepiece.
Oh, yeah.
Like that is such it's such a small puzzle that I just really love, where it's like it was perfectly paced for me, where I was like, oh, I need to clean this. Oh, there's water over there. Can I wash it? Oh, that worked. That was perfect. And it's I feel like I don't see that a ton anymore. You know, just like where the exact solution you expect to work is perfect, and it takes you a minute to find it. You know? So
yeah,
I don't know why he didn't just put his hand over the candle though. That just seemed like
well, amateur hour.
Speaking of that basically like escape room kind of situation, did you guys like? I also love the Lucas like Happy Birthday tape. That was one of my favorite puzzles in like the entire RE series. Have you guys played the first DLC hit PS4 on the 31st, and within it there's like bedroom is one of the three pieces of content in that DLC, and it to me it feels like very much in the vein of the Happy Birthday tape.
Oh, cool! I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
I want to dive into.
I don't want to tell you guys anything about it, like because yes, like if you liked the Happy Birthday tape, like that bedroom part of the band footage DLC is like going to scratch that itch for sure.
Yeah, can
cool.
we just give a shout out to poor Clancy, like who just gets screwed over at every turn, like survives so much and beats the puzzle just to burn.
Jamie, have you played the DLC?
I played every bit. I basically did sampling of it to see what we could cover. So I need to go back and do that particular one.
Okay, gotcha. But it's just more Clancy in terrible situations.
Gotcha. So, well, as we kind of wrap up here, Tim, I had a question for you. This is maybe just my own personal curiosity, but the game came out last month, right? January. When did you get a chance to experience the full game? Like, how long have you had to sort of quietly sit on this and like with the full story in mind?
So I played, an early version of the game, like right when I started at Capcom. So it's been almost a year now.
Oh, wow.
And it was like me sitting down in a room not too far from this, like the room I'm in right now, and just like it was a TV set, and I was with like new coworkers here. Like, oh, you should play the game, and I knew nothing about it. Like there was no preface. I just booted it up, and it's like this is a first-person video game. Like none of my knowledge of the series applies here. What do I do? Like this is like I like was having like a crisis moment. Like this is just such a different direction. This is crazy. And then I started playing through it. I went through the Mia stuff. I went through a similar range of emotions. I think some people had questions with the campaign, like, wow, this feels like this is pretty like kind of supernaturally. Is my character hallucinating? Are these actual like supernatural like apparitions? And then I remember specifically the moment that like I realized it was Resident Evil. It was like how much Resident Evil it was, and like JB, I think you guys have both, like JB and Reiner specifically, like you guys have covered up on this stuff really well. But it was after the first Molded fight, and then as I looked at the stairs going into the basement, and then I got into that safe room and realized I was like counting my bullets and looking at my health and like looking at the item box and saving and just planning for like my run into the basement. I'm like, oh. Like here it is. So anyway, that was a long answer to a pretty open-ended question. I got to play it about a year ago.
That has got to be for a huge Resident Evil fan like you've always been. That's got to be a crazy ass way to experience this new kind of oldness, like in a way, direction for Resident Evil. So that must have been very cool.
It was really cool. I've known for months now, like after playing the entire thing, like how much of a Resident Evil game it was and how excited I was about it and how much I liked it. And it's just one of those things where it's like, man, I just hope that everyone else digs it as much as I do. And so it's been pretty cathartic, but just also it's just fun to, I don't know, for everyone to be like, as a fan since 11, like I'm not Resident Evil 11, there isn't one of those, but like since 96, like to be a fan that long, just to have everyone talking about it, be excited about it, like I don't know, it's independent of just being at Capcom. Like it's been awesome.
Yeah.
So
11 is too young to be playing Resident Evil 2.
it was. You know what? I broke the rules.
Cool. All right. Well, Tim, thanks so much for coming and chatting Resident Evil with us. I think we're all
thank you.
excited to see where Resident Evil's going next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we hit all the big beats on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't wait.
Cool. Thanks, Reiner. Thanks, JD.
Yeah.
And can't wait to play the DLC.